Hello, everybody, everyone who's here and everyone who's listening to this recording. I am Martha Alter Hines, and this talk today is going to be about Eros. And actually, it turns out not only going to be about Eros, because when I started looking into Eros, I suddenly realized I need to look at Psyche and Cupido too. And I'm so excited because I got this feeling that I should do this Eros talk a few weeks ago, maybe 2, 3, 4 months ago. And I knew there was a reason, but I didn't really understand why. And then when I started looking into it, I realized, whoa, there's so much going on here. So just for those of you who follow astrology, to give you the one taster, but I'll go way more in depth into all of it. The one taster is that that when Pluto enters Aquarius on March 23rd, Eros will be at 29 degrees Capricorn and will enter Aquarius conjunct Pluto on March 24th. So basically, as Pluto is entering Aquarius for the first time in 246, 248 years, it will be conjunct Pluto. Just that right there is like, tells me, yes, this is huge. So yeah, I'm really excited to dive into all of this with you. And there's so much more, so much more. That's like the teeny tiny little bit. Okay. And so just for those of you who are here live, probably the timing on this will be 75-ish minutes, possibly up to 90 minutes, but feel free to stay or go. Obviously, it's being recorded. So thank you all for being here. It's awesome. So I'm going to share my screen. Oops. Such a popular topic. So many people. Great. Okay. So one thing I want to say as we're starting this is that today I'm going to be talking about Eros, the mythology, and I'll go pretty in depth into the astrology of this year and a little bit of actually 2022, because when I looked into 2022, there was some really significant stuff also. And then I'm going to do really, really brief channeled guided experience of dropping into the energetic of what Eros is. And then if that really calls to you, I'm going to be doing a workshop on February 14th with 2 of my friends to really dive into the energetic of Eros and helping us to re-embody it. So I'm doing this with Vanessa Nixon, who is a naturopath and a belly dance instructor, and then Michelle Marlahan, who is a therapeutic yoga instructor. And the purpose of today is really more the astrology side of things and the mythology side of things. And then at this workshop, it's going to be partly the mythology and the astrology, but then we're going to really go into more of a healing, reintegrating and remembering of that life force of source that we all are. So if you're wanting more of the really therapeutic, fully re-embodying of it and having it move into and through your life, then definitely I would love to have you at that workshop. So I'll say more at the end. Okay, so a little bit about me for any of you who don't know me. Again, I'm Martha Alter Hines, and I do my approach to astrology is really a combination of evolutionary astrology and a spirit led, spirit-based approach. So I have trained mostly with Ari Moshe Wolfe, and then this year I'm working with Heather Ensworth. And I absolutely love both of their approaches, highly recommend both of them. And then my approach takes their approaches and really it's my own connection to the spirit world that guides me and guides what comes through for me. So you'll probably hear that reflected in a lot of what I do today. And that's really important to me, that all of our approach to astrology is, in my opinion, needs to be very based in our own personal relationship to these energies. And then also, just in the background there is the fact that I was a clinical social worker and a psychotherapist and a body worker for the majority of 20 years. Most of my work was in the child welfare system, so I have a ton of experience with trauma-informed work, and that also infuses a lot of what I do. So, for example, when we're talking about Eros, that's obviously very tied to sexuality, and so that's something I'll talk about today, is that it's really key and important to me that we approach all of these topics, but especially when we get into the realm of sexuality, in a trauma-informed, very grounded, very safe feeling way. And my background as a therapist in the child welfare system is a huge part of where I'm coming from with that. Okay. So then another just basic thing about my approach is that I feel really strongly that each of these archetypes, the gods and the goddesses, are all of us, regardless of what gender we identify as, or any gender that we are. And I also feel really strongly that these archetypes and these stories of the archetypes are living, they're alive, so they are constantly changing. And as we know, many of the stories that we associate with these archetypes were told and developed and shaped in the time of patriarchy. So it's also key in the work that I do that I hold space in myself, and just like in talks like this and in the workshops I do and everything I do, that these archetypes are needing to come alive in the way that is true for you, true for me, true for us in this moment, and it's continually evolving and changing. So it's important to me to look at the historic stories, but then also to really take the time and the care to drop into what the truth is in this moment energetically, for each of us, because I feel very strongly also that the wisdom and the healing of each of these archetypes is needing to emerge through each of us, through our bodies, through our souls, through our everything about us. And that wisdom is going to be unique. It's going to be a unique wisdom that comes through each of us. So yes, that is absolutely key in my whole approach here. So here are some resources that I used. I did look at Demetra George's book, Asteroid Goddesses, which probably lots of you have. And she does have a section on Eros and Psyche. And then I looked at another book just on classical mythology, just a basic book. And then I looked at stuff online also. So you're free to take a look at all that yourself. And here are some basic images of Eros that I found on Pinterest. So it's Eros with Psyche. And I'll say a little more about her in a second, because as I was looking at the astrology of Eros, like I said, I realized that the astrology of the asteroid Psyche and the astrology of the asteroid Cupido are kind of, you can't look at one without the other, is what I realized once I was looking at all of it. Okay. Can you guys hear? There's a very loud thing out my door. Can you guys hear it?
Nope.
Okay, good. Excellent. If you can, someone tell me.
Okay.
Okay. So Eros in mythology. Eros was the Greek god, also known as Cupid in Roman mythology, and or Amor. And so Eros is the Greek personification of sexual desire. But the thing that I find the most fascinating about the mythology of Eros, and that I think is really key, and when we drop into what the essence of Eros energy is that in the telling of Eros by Hesiod, a poet, he said that Eros arose out of the great void or chaos together with Gaia, the earth, and the earth's depths. So, you know, there's like with a lot of myths, there's one level we can approach them where we can get pretty caught up in the story of it, like the drama of it, which I think can have wisdom. But what I tend to resonate with the most is to come back to the essence of the energetic of it, right? So in the story of Eros and Psyche, for example, I'm not going to go into the whole myth because that could take this whole hour, but on a basic level, Psyche was a princess, a mortal princess, and she was supposedly the most beautiful princess in the world. And Venus, or Aphrodite, who was Eros's mother, was jealous of Psyche because men were so obsessed with Psyche that they were not worshiping Venus. So a whole series of things unfolded where essentially Venus, out of this jealousy and this rage, was very, very mean to Psyche. And so again, that's a whole long story that we can go down. And I think when we look at the astrology of Eros and Psyche and Cupido, I can definitely see how aspects of that more drama-filled storyline have some kind of truth to it. But again, those stories are constructed in this very patriarchal time with very misogynistic and, you know, drama-filled realities. And so I personally find those stories, like the usefulness of it, pretty limited. And what is more true for me is to really think about, okay, if Eros arose out of the great void together with Gaia, that's really fascinating. That essentially Eros is what? It's the energy of source. It's like in the Big Bang, you know, Eros just is that energy of source itself, which is what life is. And Gaia, the earth, came out of that at the same time. So when I'm dropping into the essence of Eros, that's really what I'm focused on. And when I go into my own praying, that's really what comes alive for me, is that reality of what Eros is, as opposed to the drama of Venus being jealous and forcing Eros to hurt Psyche and all of these things. But that's my reality. You know, I think it's really important to honor whatever your reality, whatever you're drawn to, go for it. So then the other aspect of the essence of the mythology that I also want to mention is, I think it's really interesting to drop into what Psyche is too, because so Psyche and Eros were essentially, they were lovers. And after a long set of trials and tribulations, by the end of the story, they unite and they're together forever. Okay. So, but again, what feels most alive to me, as opposed to focusing on the drama of that story, is more about what's the essence of the truth if we think of Eros and Psyche both as ourselves, right? And Eros, as if Eros is the life force of source itself, creation life force, which we all are, Psyche, the name Psyche means soul. So I'll drop into this a little more as we get a little further into this, but one thing that feels really good and alive for me is to think of Psyche as the part of us that wants to love so completely through our soul, like that wants to connect with source, with an other, with ourselves, with life itself on this soul level. And one thing that I find really, I'm going to skip ahead for 1 second to Eros and astrology. One thing I find really cool, really neat in Demetra George's approach to Eros and Psyche is she talks about Eros being the higher octave of Mars and Psyche being a higher octave of Venus. That's really interesting. So it's like, I don't necessarily think that's right or wrong. I just think it's a really neat way to think about it, that Mars is our drive. Mars is our desire. And maybe one way to think of Eros, one aspect of it could be that Eros is that desire, but that's purely source. So maybe there's a way in which that desire is more of a divine sexuality, possibly. And then Psyche, being a higher octave of Venus, has this, this desire to love and be loved and to merge with Eros. But again, maybe it's possibly more of a divine love quality. And I'm just open. I mean, I'm just exploring that. Like that's just one thing that comes in for me and that feels good and right to me. But again, I love to hear your thoughts and your feelings on it. Okay, now I'm going to go back to Eros in astronomy. So Eros is the asteroid number 433. If you're looking it up on astro.com, you can find it there. Number 433. It was discovered on August 13th, 1898. And it was the first asteroid to be orbited by a spacecraft and the first asteroid to have a spacecraft land on it. And that happened on February 12th, 2001. And something I did not know is that Eros is actually in the inner orbit of the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. So it's actually very close to the Earth. It's much closer to the Earth than most of the other asteroids. I think of most of the asteroids have an orbital period of 5-ish years. And Eros has actually a very similar orbit time to Mars. Again, just fascinating, the connection between Mars and Eros, and then the fact that they have a similar amount of time that they take to orbit the Earth, and Eros crosses Mars orbit. So just interesting. Yeah, and then as you'll see when I start to talk about some chart examples, when I looked into the astrology of Eros, I realized really quickly that I could not do that without looking at Psyche and Cupido. And then naturally, I was really drawn to the relationship between Eros and Mars and Venus, of course. And I listened to one talk by Sabrina Monarch, who I know does a lot of work with Eros, and she also explores the relationship between Eros and Saturn. I didn't personally feel drawn to do that, but I think that's a really neat idea. And so you could look more into her work for more on that. Okay, so here's where we get, those of you who are into astrology, this is going to be so super fascinating. And for those of you who don't follow astrology so much, I'm sorry. This is just going to be like a few minutes of a bunch of words, but this is really cool for those of you who do follow astrology. Oh my goodness. Okay. So first of all, I started looking at the astrology of Eros in 2023, and I got the instinct, no, I need to go back a little bit. So I did. And what I discovered was Eros, Psyche, and Cupido were all conjunct during the eclipses this past fall on November 1st, 2022 at 24 Libra. Okay, the point 24 Libra is huge in the astrology coming up this year. So the eclipses next October 2023 are going to be right at that 24 Libra point. And so anybody who happens to have planets around that 24 Libra, 24 Aries, 24 Capricorn, 24 Cancer, gigantic. My North Node happens to be 24 Libra. So I'm like, wow, this is very cool. Okay, yeah, there's just so many things I could say, but I will pause there. So then Eros started 2023 at 9 degrees, 43 minutes of Sagittarius. We're recording this on February 2nd, 2023, and just a few days ago, Eros was conjunct the galactic center around 27 degrees of Sagittarius. It has now barely entered Capricorn, but I love the fact that it just crossed the galactic center. It was really calling to me when it was heading through Sagittarius, and part of that is probably because my natal Eros is at 24 Sagittarius. So I just had my Eros return, and then it crossed the galactic center. So for me, Eros coming to the galactic center just is like anything coming to the galactic center. It's like it comes home. It comes back to the center of the galaxy. And so it comes back into an opportunity to be infused with the energy of source, essentially, is how I feel it. So yeah, just entered Capricorn. And then, like I said, one huge, gigantic truth is that on March 23rd, this year, 2023, Pluto will be entering Aquarius for the first time in, 246, 248 years. And on the next day, Eros also enters Aquarius conjunct Pluto, and Hygeia will be very near both of them at 7 degrees Aquarius. And then, as you'll see this year, Eros and Hygeia are going to do an amazing little dance. So on May 4th, 2023, Eros will then conjunct Hygeia at 18 degrees Aquarius. And 18 degrees Aquarius is a key point because that is where Saturn went direct this in 2022, in September, October of 2022. So if you happen to have something, again, right at that 18-degree Aquarius mark, that's just really fascinating to me. I happen to have my Mars right there, so I'm noticing it. and this conjunction between Hygeia and Eros will be one day before the full moon lunar eclipse, where and on I have a chart I'll show you in a second. On the day of that lunar eclipse, Eros and Hygeia, when they're conjunct, will be squaring the moon and the sun. Very powerful. Actually, let me just show you that while we're talking about it, so it will make a little more sense. Okay, here is the chart of Eros conjunct Cupido conjunct Psyche, all at 24 degrees Libra on November 1st of this last year. So that was right in the middle of the eclipse season. Yes, the second eclipse was November 8th, right? And so it was right smack in the middle of that. And there was Venus on the south node, you know, it's just a lot going on there. Uranus on the north node. Okay, and then this is the May 5th eclipse I was talking about. So on this day, here is Hygeia conjunct Eros. They were just conjunct exactly the day before this. And here is the full moon in Scorpio, 1458 Scorpio, opposite the sun, 1458 Taurus. Also still, you know, on that eclipse, the sun will still be very close. I mean, the sun will be very close to Uranus. So again, Uranus is going to be playing this really big role in the eclipses, just like it was last year. And like I was saying, this Hygeia Eros conjunction will be squaring the moon and the sun. And also, as I talked about in my Estrella talk, which many of you saw or were at, actually Estrella on that eclipse will be conjunct the north node. So it's just a very beautiful, powerful set of energies. And one thing I wonder about with all of this dance that Eros and Hygeia are doing this coming year, you know, is what is the healing that's wanting to occur around Eros, around our relationship to sexuality, our relationship to creative life force energy, coming back to the essence of what it is. Like Eros and Hygeia they're going to have 3 conjunctions. Hygeia and Eros will be conjunct 3 times in Aquarius. So there's this sense of finding the truth, finding the liberating Eros, healing our relationship to Eros in a way that's in alignment with divine intelligence, you know, and squaring Uranus, which rules Aquarius. So, wow, a lot about just freeing things up to be purely the divine. Very powerful. Okay, back to a bit more on all of this astrology. So, like I said, that Hygeia and Eros will be conjunct with each other 3 times. The first time will be on May 4th, 2023. Then Eros will go retrograde at 1 degree of Pisces on June 28th, 2023. And when it does that, it'll be trining the south node. Then the other big thing about the astrology of this year that I find fascinating with Eros is that on July 22nd, 2023, Venus will be going retrograde at 28 Leo, which is just a big deal in and of itself. But when it does that, it will be exactly opposite Eros. So Venus in Leo going retrograde, opposite Eros. Again, bringing up this sort of redoing our relationship to life force energy, Leo, Eros, you know, bringing us back into a different relationship, maybe with our bodies, with our creative life force energy, with who we are, what we are as beings of source on this planet, and in relationship to the earth. Because again, as I've talked about in a lot of other talks, this whole year has repeated theme after theme after theme after theme after theme after theme after theme of bringing us back into a relationship with the earth and the reality that we are bodies, that we are the earth. We're not sitting on the earth, we are the earth. And that shows up in the fact that all of the Mercury retrogrades are in earth signs this year. Taurus currently is in Aries, but it's racing through Aries. It's going to go through Aries really fast, and then it's going to enter Taurus, and it will go retrograde at 15 degrees Taurus and spend very long, relatively for Jupiter, a long time in Taurus. And then we have this Venus retrograde in Leo, which happens to be opposite Eros. So I just feel all of these energies really bringing us back to Earth. And of course, the North Node has been in Taurus. Uranus is in Taurus on the North Node. It's all helping us remember that we literally are Earth. There's no getting around it. It's just true. Okay. So then the second conjunction of Hygeia and Eros will be at 14 degrees of Aquarius on August 25th, 2023. And then Eros will go direct at 7 degrees of Aquarius. And then the third conjunction of Eros and Hygeia will be at 14 degrees Aquarius again, November 2nd, 2023. And then the final little Eros astrology fact that called to me was that on December 10th, 2023, Eros will be conjunct Saturn at 1 degree of Pisces. And that area of Pisces is going to be pretty highlighted this year too, because Saturn is going to go retrograde. Saturn is going to be entering Pisces in March, and then of 2023, and then it'll go retrograde at 7 degrees of Pisces, and it will go direct at 0 degrees of Pisces. So that 1 degree of Pisces area is going to get a lot of action from Saturn in general. So Eros will conjunct Saturn right around that little space, which I think is cool. Oh, Kate, you're asking about Hygeia. Yes. And I did a talk on Hygeia, actually for EA Zoom. And then I have a video on Hygeia on my own YouTube channel. So definitely feel free to watch those. But yeah, on a basic level, Hygeia is a goddess associated with health and healing and preventative health. And also for me, Hygeia brings us back to the healer that we each are, and the inner knowing that we have of what our bodies are saying to us. So again, it just highlights that theme that we are Earth, that we are bodies, that we have wisdom of the divine that's trying to move through us as Earth bodies and Earth beings. Yeah, just so many levels to Hygeia there. Yeah. Take a look at that whole talk I did on Hygeia. I think you would love it. And then Adrian, you're asking, is Eros and Psyche a couple related? Okay, yes. Related to Shiva and Shakti. Yes, I don't feel, I don't feel qualified to really speak to the more of the Hindu version of all of this, but yes, definitely, absolutely, Eros and Psyche are very associated with the classic divine feminine, divine masculine union, sacred union. It also reminds me of the story of Parvati in, Hindu tradition. And again, I don't feel qualified to talk about that really, but I was feeling that so strongly yesterday and this morning when I was really thinking about this. Yeah. So yeah, yes. Yes. I love that question. And health and healing meeting with goddess of sexuality. Yes, right. Yeah. Yes. Beautiful. It's all so powerful. Yes, Jackie, I love that you are a craniosacral therapist and Hygeia and Eros speak to your own inner body wisdom. Yes. I'm curious where these energies are in your chart, actually. Yeah. Okay. So, and then one thing I just want to throw in here about the astrology of 2023 in general, which again is so key and highlighted in these themes and is an undercurrent of what's going on this year is the fact that in July 2023 the nodes of the moon will switch from Taurus and Scorpio into Libra and Aries. And when they're switching like that, that is precisely when Pluto will be squaring the nodes of the moon. So the energetic of Pluto squaring the nodes of the moon is already kind of in play. And I feel like it's in play this whole year pretty much. But the exact square will be in July of 2023. So in general, this year, I feel so much powerful potential. And I would say even, like, I want to say we have a choice, but I mean, it is a choice. Okay. Pluto squaring the nodes of the moon, I feel as a calling, and there is a certain level of choice there where when anything squares the nodes of the moon, it's like on a collective level or on a personal level or both, we have this balance point between what maybe our souls have been doing and where our souls want to go. And they're really, the ultimate goal is they're wanting to integrate both, right? They want to be on the seesaw that eventually comes back to the middle. And so something squaring the nodes of the moon for me feels like, in evolutionary astrology, it's called a skip step. I agree with that, but I also feel it as an opportunity that we have this entry point to finding a way to balance the two and to come back to wholeness. So with anything regarding life, but especially with anything regarding Pluto, we can choose to meet that opportunity full on, or we can avoid it. And so I would say that's the only level at which there's a choice here. I also feel like it's kind of an imperative that as the nodes of the moon switch from Taurus and Scorpio into Aries and Libra, sure, we can resist this calling to integrate, to balance our relationship to the divine feminine, the divine masculine, Aries, Libra, which are ruled by Mars and Venus. I'm sure there will be a lot of resistance to that, but we don't have to resist it, and we can let's just go with it. So what I feel in this whole year is this amazing opportunity to rethink, what is this whole thing we call the masculine? What is this whole thing we call the feminine? What is this whole thing we call relationship, sexuality, divine sexuality, creative life force? What is all of that? Let's deconstruct it. Let's let it be the caterpillar that goes into the chrysalis and becomes something that we can't even imagine. That's one of the biggest themes I feel in this whole year. So with Eros being conjunct Pluto as it enters Aquarius, with all of these things that I've talked about with Eros and Hygeia, and the way that Eros is going to play out with the eclipse in May, all of the whole picture is just so powerfully emphasizing this opportunity for us to redo this. Let's start over. Let's become the new butterfly that we can't even imagine. And to that end, for anybody who's interested, in June of this year, I will actually be holding the second year of a set of free talks, a symposium called Rebecoming the One, which is going to be all about redoing our relationship to gender, sexuality, and healing from all of that. So if that's something you're interested in, make sure you're on my mailing list, which you can sign up for at livingtheonelight.com. And again, it'll be free and really powerful, some really amazing speakers already lined up to be part of it. And I'm really excited about it. So that is a little side note, but it's related. Okay. So now I will stop talking for a minute and let us drop into Eros as you. And I'm gonna do a really short guided channeled meditation. I'll do a longer one, a more in-depth one at the workshop I was mentioning, which is going to be on Valentine's Day, February 14th. So 12 days from when we're doing this recording. So if that's calling to you, definitely come. And yeah, this will be just really, really brief. So if you are watching the recording and you want to not do it, you can just skip forward a few minutes. And if you're here and you want to do it, great. And if you're listening to the recording and you want to do it, that's also great. And you can just do whatever feels right for you. So, welcome. And just for this next few minutes, we're going to give you an opportunity to remember what it is to be Eros, what Eros really truly is. So first, we invite you to come, take a deep breath and come into your body. Drop down all the way into all of who you are as a being of the earth, the body that the earth has created for you, the beautiful, alive being that is you. And you can feel down into the center of the earth, the center of Mother Gaia, and feel the light of the heart of Mother Gaia Earth spark awake, and feel you and know you. And you can feel the light of the heart of Source itself also spark awake and feel you and know you. And the light of your own heart spark awake. And those lights all surrounding you, mixing with each other, the light of the heart of Mother Gaia Earth, the love and the light of your own heart, your own being, your own soul, and the love and the light of Source itself, all mixing, surrounding you, creating a cocoon, an envelope of love and light of your own being, you being held by the love and the light of existence itself, and the love and the light of your own being and the love and the light of the earth. And then you can feel how this love and this light is what all of existence is. This love and this light is what becomes anything and everything in the entire time-space continuum, including the earth. The earth is a being of light as well. And so the energy Eros is also essentially this light and this love, just a slightly different shading. It's like the light and the love of the divine, of source, is one particular quality of light. And then when that light goes through a particular prism, it becomes the light and the love and the creation life force energy of source that is Eros. And we would like to invite you to imagine that quality of the light of the divine that is Eros, starting at the base of your perineum, the base of your body, and feel as it comes alive in you, because it is you. It's what created you. It's what keeps you moving. It's what breathes in and out as you. It's what pumps your heart, moves the blood through all the veins and arteries and capillaries. It's the creative life force of source that actually is you. There's nothing that's not this. And what often happens in life on Earth, especially for humans, but for anything where there's fear, is that there's just stagnation and a holding and a stuckness where this Eros, this life force energy, forgets to flow. So we would love in this very brief time together to just give you an opportunity to, if you like, and as feels exactly right for you, to just feel that Eros life force energy coming alive in you again. Again, starting at the base of your body, at your perineum, and then swirling in your pelvic bowl, swirling through, first starting at that first chakra, and you can even actually feel it starting in the center of Earth itself, and then in the chakra that's between the Earth and your first chakra. And then you can feel it in your first chakra and swirling up to your second chakra, which is in your pelvic area. And then you can feel it moving up and swirling into your third chakra, which is where your solar plexus is, your diaphragm, just under your ribs. And in each of these places where this Eros energy is swirling and moving, it's opening you back up. It's giving you permission to let the light back in, let life back in, let the creative life force of source itself and that pure love that is source, that loves you infinitely and unconditionally. It is swirling and just touching you and reminding you that you can let go. You are pure love and you are infinitely loved. You are held and you are perfect exactly the way you are, because you are a literal creation of the divine. You are a literal manifestation of Eros, of the creative life force of source itself. And now you can feel that Eros energy swirling up into your heart chakra, your fourth chakra, opening up, releasing any emotions that might be stored there. And then up to your fifth chakra, your throat chakra, and your sixth chakra and your third eye, your pineal gland, where you can see far beyond what your physical eyes can see. You can see through all of existence, through all of infinity, just exactly as is right for you, in balance and in harmony with the rest of who you are. And then this Eros energy keeps swirling up to your seventh chakra, your crown chakra, and opens you fully back up in your connection both with the earth, the heart of Mother Gaia, earth, and then opens you back up into your relationship with the heart and the light and the love of source itself. And that's what Eros really is this swirling, beautiful reminder of the love and the light and the creative life force energy that is you as Earth, as Mother Gaia, as source, as your own heart, your own being. And it's what is natural to you. And it is a healing energy that only wants to help you come back into right relation with what you naturally are, which is a being of the divine, a being of source, a being that is 100,000% through and through the life force of creation itself, the life force of source itself. You are source itself, all of it. You are infinity. And we would love to just give you the opportunity to have this be a reminder and maybe even a starting place to feel, to remember what it is to be in that state of being that is actually naturally who you are, that creation life of life force itself. Any and all blocks that you might feel or stagnation that you might feel just aren't real. They're not ultimately the truth. You are Eros. You are the divine. You are source itself. And so your natural state of being just simply is that. Here in this body, you are creative life force itself, as you, as earth, all as one. And so we invite you to take another deep breath and just bring that reality back into your heart, into your whole body. Let this be like a blessing, a healing, and a knowing in that part of you, that all of you. And let this spark awake whatever healing and remembering is just right, exactly for you in this moment, in any moment you might be listening to this, and throughout all of time and all of space, as you come back into the remembering of yourself as literally the divine, literally source, literally earth, purely as you, as your soul, as your psyche, as the perfect being that is you, meant to be here and right now. And so it is. Amen. Okay. So yeah, that to me is true Eros. And I love this picture. This is what I feel when I feel that energy. And if any of you want to share anything about what that felt like for you, feel free to put it in the chat. And if you're listening to this recording or you don't want to put it in the chat and you're here live, also feel free to email me, livingtheonelight@gmail.com. I love to hear anything, anything you want to share. Feel free anytime. Okay, so now moving on to some chart examples. I had lots and lots of volunteers, which is awesome. So I'm just going to go briefly through each of them and just highlight some little things about each one that popped out at me. But I'm sure there are infinite things I'm not noticing in the 2 seconds that I'm doing this. So it's just what comes alive. Great. And I thank you, Pam. Deep gratitude for Eros awakening in my own consciousness. And Jackie, that was gorgeous. So aligning and highlighting. Yeah, I'm glad. Thank you. Okay. So this is my chart. And like I mentioned before, my own Eros is 24 degrees of Sagittarius. So it's really near the galactic center. And for me, that makes a lot of sense given my own, what I get shown in my praying often is various things related to divine sexuality and cosmic sexuality, like the divine sexuality of all things of the cosmos. So again, the galactic center is, which is at about 27-ish degrees Sagittarius, is where our galaxy is rotating around. So for me, the galactic center has a lot to do with kind of a return to source. And that's where my Eros happens to be sitting. And it's also for me trining my South Node and my Venus. So very tied into my Venusian energy. And then I happen to notice that also Psyche is conjunct my moon, which makes a lot of sense to me because I can see how, and my moon happens to be on my ascendant. So my moon energy, which is in Virgo, actually also happens to be conjunct Hygeia. It's very tied to how my identity as a mother and as a healer and And Psyche often can be Psyche is a whole other talk that I would love to do another time, but Psyche can be associated with being very psychically attuned. And so Psyche conjunct moon, easily I can see as somebody being very attuned to people's emotions, which I am. I was a therapist, and I definitely identify as a healer in that way. And in Virgo, again, healer energy, and yes, that all fits. Okay, Nancy, also you have your Eros and my Eros are pretty much exactly the same. You have yours at 23 degrees Eros, Sagittarius. So we both have this galactic center energy with our Eros. And yours is trining your north node. Mine is trining my south node. And yours is also trining your Juno, Estrella, Sedna, and your Ceres. It's in the grand trine with your north node and those goddesses and your Ceres. So that's just really interesting and beautiful. Like, I would wonder, there's so much there, but I would wonder if there's a quality for you of not only that galactic center energy coming in, but also the nurturing Earth Mother, which actually would be true for me too, because, well, anyway, yes, we could go on and on. But that's what jumps out at me about your chart. And Tatsi, we were emailing this morning about this. Okay, so here's what was really interesting when I was looking at Tatsi's chart. First, I looked at just her chart just with Eros. I didn't have Psyche there, and I didn't have Cupido. And I was thinking, okay, well, that's cool. She has Eros conjunct Juno, conjunct Hygeia. That's neat. And I was like, but there's something way more powerful here. I need to bring in Psyche and Cupido. What's going on? Wow. So then I did, and take a look. She has Psyche exactly conjunct her south node within 21 minutes. Really conjunct, like super conjunct, with Cupido on her north node. And I was like, oh my goodness. Okay, there we go. So what does that mean? I don't know, but that is really cool. This Psyche, Cupid, so Cupid again is the Roman word for Eros. So Psyche and Cupid opposite each other on your nodes. Whoa, like, what are you bringing? You brought some kind of dynamic into this lifetime that's trying to integrate those, right? And then for you, as we've talked about, Lilith is exactly squaring those, not to mention your sun and your Ceres, and you've got all that stuff, that Pisces stuff squaring that, right? So that's a whole, I would just, yeah, that's a really powerful thing to drop into. What is going on for your soul in this lifetime, that where the Psyche Cupido relationship is one way, with Lilith in particular as that skip step, they're trying to help you integrate that Gemini, Sagittarius, Pisces thing going on so strongly. Irina, yeah, you feel wholeness and harmony. Thank you. Yeah. So yeah, so Tatsi, just I don't know, you tell me. What does this feel like? Yeah, I would love to hear more when you have time to really drop into it. Okay, Lisa, for you, also super powerful. Eros squares your nodes. So Eros is is a skipped step. Eros, and you have also Lilith playing in, similar like with Tatsi. You have Lilith on your north node. So this, there's this incredibly powerful relationship between your soul trying to integrate the south node stuff with the north node stuff in relationship to Eros, and in relationship to the Lilith energy, with the Lilith energy just on a really basic level being about the part of us that the dark feminine, the really powerful goddess feminine that wasn't willing to be subjugated, wasn't willing to lie down under Adam, and said, no, I need to be met fully as the goddess, the powerful goddess that I am, or I'm not doing this. And that's being squared by Eros. Really beautiful, really powerful. And Nancy, you're asking, where would one find a list of glyphs of the lesser known? Oh, the glyphs. I don't know. Maybe go to astro.com. But if you have specific questions, ones you're curious about, just email me. And yeah, I'm happy to help you. But astro.com would be probably where I would start. Okay, Kathy. So Kathy, for you, when I looked at your natal chart, there wasn't a whole lot that really jumped out at me like I have to address this thing. But I was feeling into the eclipses with your Eros, because so natally, this is a complicated chart. Okay. I have a lot of stuff up here. Okay, where is, okay, your natal Eros is at 20 degrees Taurus in your 7th house of, strong placement in that sense. But on this eclipse, the eclipse, okay, that's what it was. Okay. The full moon eclipse that I talked about, that May 5th eclipse, where Eros and Hygeia are going to be squaring the moon and the sun, the moon will be pretty much on your Cupido, and the sun will be pretty close to your natal Eros. And then the Eros Hygeia conjunction will be pretty much on your natal Chiron. So it's just a really interesting combination. Like, it doesn't jump out at me as necessarily absolutely this is, something that is huge, but it is a really interesting combination of things. And yeah, I would be curious just to drop more into that for you and see what feels alive, and see how that energy feels at that time too, and leading up to it, and all of the above. And actually the 24 Libra, that point that I was talking about, that was so powerful this past year and is going to be really powerful this coming year, happens to be on your Juno. And as not this year, but coming up, you're also going to have a nodal opposition. And so that energetic is going to start playing in with these eclipses too. Okay. And then Adrian, you have also Eros squaring the nodes, and you have Psyche on your node, and you have Mars conjunct Chiron. So for me, when I was looking at this, first of all, the Eros is squaring the nodes of the moon. And then then you have Psyche on the north node, and then Mars, where's your Mars conjunct Chiron? So again, this is kind of complicated and hard to just sum up in 2 seconds, but what I was feeling looking at this was, given that Eros is squaring your nodes, somehow that to me that echoes the Mars Chiron conjunction. Like there's a calling in your soul in this chart in various ways to do healing around sexuality and healing around the divine masculine in particular, maybe. So that was just a wondering I had, with Psyche on your North Node. So Psyche being like an ally in that. And that's really interesting. I would just be curious again, what that feels like for you. And as you drop into that, it's really neat. Okay. And Vicky. So yeah, Vicky, you have Eros right on your ascendant, as you told me. And then you have Mars conjunct Neptune and your North Node, which I'm trying to remember exactly what I was feeling when I was looking at this. There was something really strongly sticking out to me about that. I can't remember why. I will write to you if I remember why. But what I will say that didn't stick out to me, that's now sticking out to me, is that when the eclipses are happening at that 24 degrees Libra point, it will actually be squaring. The nodes are going to be exactly squaring your ascendant and your Eros. So that's what's sticking out to me right this second. That's really, really powerful. And I'm curious how that will feel for you. I could imagine it feeling like a turning point moment or opportunity, or I don't know. And wow, then the North Node will be right on your Hygeia at 25 Aries. And Eris, the planetary body Eris or Xena, is going to actually be super powerfully playing into the October eclipses as well. I'm going to be doing another free talk for EA Zoom the beginning of April on Eris Xena. So that's another goddess that's really calling to me these days. And she will be right on the North Node of the moon in the October eclipses at 24 Aries. So that's just a big energetic happening for all of us coming up. And then Jean, your Eros is here. Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay. Speaking of Eris Xena. so, and you're a student of Heather too. So Heather Ensworth is who has gotten me really fired up about Eris originally being called Xena. And Heather has been saying she's going to do a talk on Eris Xena, also just on her YouTube channel. So I'm keeping my eyes out for that. And then I'm going to do a talk also in early April, but I'm sure she will have done hers before that. But she is a go-to person for me about what this energetic of Eris Xena is. And so for you, Jean, you happen to have your Eros exactly within 20 minutes conjunct your Eris. And okay, now I'm remembering. This was so cool. Your Cupido, which is on your South Node, is also very close to your Lilith. So for me, the Lilith energy and the Eris Xena energy are not the same, but they both have this quality of the quote unquote dark feminine, the part of us that's going to say, stop. No, I'm not doing this. Like, I am literally the power of existence, and I'm not going to not be that. So move over. Either I'm going to be able to show up in that way here, or I'm not doing it. And so your Eros, which is conjunct your Mars, happens to be with Eris Xena. And then your Cupido, which is another version of Eros, happens to be with your Lilith and your Astrea. So just like this double energy of your Eros energy mixing with that powerful feminine energy too, and your Mars energy. So it's like all of them together, and also mixing in with your South Node and your moon, even if it's a big, wide set of things to be bringing together, but they are kind of all in a line there. Anyway, yeah, I don't know, exactly what that means for you or how that feels, but it's just incredibly powerful, and you've got a lot of power in you, clearly. It's right here. We all do, but it's just very prominent. Okay. And then Ruchi. So Ruchi lives in India and can't be here live because it's the middle of the night for her, but she wanted me to look at her chart. And Ruchi is an amazing artist when it comes to, she sent me several of her paintings, I mean, pictures of them. She does a lot of paintings of the Shakti Shiva energy, and they make me cry. They're so beautiful. And so when we were talking about her Eros energy, I said, I wonder if you have, you know, your Eros conjunct your Venus or something, right? And then I looked it up, and no, she doesn't, but she has her Eros conjunct her Jupiter in Taurus, which is ruled by Venus. So totally made sense. You know, she's got this like beautiful, sensual relationship through art to these erotic energies, you know, the divine feminine, divine masculine. And then I today threw in the Cupido and the Psyche, and I went, wow, that's even more beautiful and powerful and completely makes sense. So she also has Sun conjunct Venus. She's very, very Venusian, right? Like Sun conjunct Venus, and her Jupiter in Taurus conjunct Eros, like just so sensual, beautiful as a human. And then her Eros is opposite her Cupido, exactly opposite, like within 3 minutes opposite. So these two parts of her that are both related to the Eros Cupido energy are just balancing each other. And then her Psyche at 19 Cancer is trining her Cupido. So in this harmonious balancing relationship with that Cupido energy, and then sextile to her Eros and her Jupiter. So again, it's just all just this flow of this Venusian, Taurus, Cancer, you know, Scorpio energy. Totally makes sense when I look at her art and just talk to her, and yeah, so beautiful. I love it. And then I think this is our last one. This is another person who can't be here live because she lives in Australia, and so it's also the middle of the night there. But so for you, Ellie, your Eros is okay. Yes, this is what stuck out to me about yours, which is also really interesting. So your Eros is here at 5 degrees of Capricorn conjunct your Diana, and then your and then it's exact. These are squaring your Cupido in Aries, and your Psyche is loosely but conjunct your Saturn in Taurus. So both your Eros and your Psyche energies have this connection to the Saturn Capricorn energies. And actually in 4 weeks from today, I will do another talk for EA Zoom on Saturn and on reimagining our relationship to Saturn, which again is very, very tied to the work of Heather Ensworth. And so I'll be focusing on seeing Saturn through the lens of being Enki, the god Enki, and being a yin energy. And so, you know, when I look at this chart with the Eros and the Psyche energy being so tied into Capricorn and Saturn, there could be an instinct to say there might be like some kind of a constriction around these energies or something. But if we take this other approach to Saturn, this other approach to Capricorn as a yin energy, as a soft way of nurturing and holding, that takes a completely different spin, right? And I will leave that to the next talk because I would love to have you guys there, because that is a whole other topic. Yeah, so on a basic level, what does Eros, Cupido and Psyche, what are they possibly offering us? Well, just to sum it up, for me, like I've said, Eros and Cupido are a reminder of ourselves as source itself, literally. And the Eros Psyche dance, to me, is what's most alive for me, and the most beautiful and healing to me is to think of it as an opportunity to bring ourselves into the relationship of ourselves as source and soul. And so we are source manifesting as a soul, and our soul has this incredibly strong desire to re-merge with source as source. We want to be source, right? So when we maybe are in a human relationship where we feel that incredibly strong, powerful love that just moves as though it's all of source, we could be experiencing ourselves as that Psyche energy in relation to the Eros energy. And another way to think of it is it's just our soul wanting to re-merge back with source, which again is really in evolutionary astrology very, very tied into the essence of what Mars and Pluto energy is too. So there's a whole dance in all of that. Yeah, and I feel like these energies are an opportunity to wake us back up to what it is to feel fully alive, fully as one with the life force of the all that is, and to manifest that as we're meant to in this lifetime and in each moment. And really, like was expressed in the channel part, I really feel it as the Eros energy as an opportunity to come back into complete balance as ourselves, as that life force energy, and to have incredible healing, like even physical healing. That's a huge part of what I feel wanting to manifest for us in remembering this ourselves as Eros, and to not be scared of it, not to think it's just sex, or it's like something we need to push away, that it's scary. We need a safe relationship to it, where we can really let it move as who we are. Okay. Yeah. So with that, if you're wanting more, if you want to feel, if you want like a deeper, longer channeled version of this, and then if you want to move with this Eros energy, that's what this workshop is going to be about, that I'm doing with my two friends, Vanessa and Michelle, on February 14th, which happens to be Valentine's Day. If you're seeing this video after that, it's also going to be recorded and available indefinitely. So you don't need to be there live. You can have the recording. But in that workshop, I'll do a more in-depth channeled version of this experience of being Eros. And then Vanessa is going to do a really beautiful self-love movement exercise, and Michelle will as well. And so it's the idea with it is that kind of what maybe you felt in the channeled part today is that this Eros, this erotic energy that is really the life force of source, wants to come fully alive in our bodies and wants to re-become all of who we are, because it is all of who we are. And so we really, in order for that to happen, the point of this workshop is to give us support, give us tools, give us ways to allow that to move and allow it to really help us to heal and to feel really connected and good in our bodies and in ourselves. And yeah, so if that calls to you, please join us. And just to name a few of the other things coming up for me that might be interesting to you, on February 28th, I am holding a workshop called Trauma-Informed Basics for Astrologers and Healers. So that's for you if you are an astrologer or a healer and you don't have a lot of trauma-informed training. Like I said, I did that for the majority of 20 years and worked in the juvenile court system and child welfare system and all of that. So I have a ton of that background, and I see a lot of need for some really basic do's and don'ts for people who are in the astrology field and the healing field. And so you just know how to, you don't get thrown off, when people bring up trauma, because everybody has trauma and it's going to come up. And then some of you already are in the goddess series that Verena Burrell and I are doing. But if you like this approach to the archetypes, if you like the channeled way of experiencing them and re-becoming them, that's what we're doing in this goddess series. We just started last week with our first goddess, which is Persephone. And it's not too late to join. You can join anytime. So we're doing one goddess per month. We started with Persephone, then next month we're doing Ceres, then we're doing Hecate, then we're doing Hygeia, which I've been talking a lot about today, and on and on and on through the whole year. And then we'll probably actually do another 12 next year. And one of the ones I would love to do next year is Psyche. So if any of that sounds interesting, be in touch about that. And then the last thing I was going to share is these, if you do like the channeled healing aspect of it, I do deep peace and healing sessions once a month on the first Friday of each month, which happens to be tomorrow morning. But I do those once a month, and those also are recorded, so you don't have to be there live. But you can be, and that's available. And that's it. Yeah. So feel free to be on my mailing list, email me, go to my own YouTube channel, which is Living the One Light. Everything is livingtheonelight.com or livingtheonelight@gmail.com or Living the One Light YouTube channel. It's all there. And I really, truly love hearing from you. So please don't hesitate. And that's it. Are there any questions, comments?
I'll make a comment.
Yes.
Wonderful job. That was beautiful and well received. I can, see by the comments, everybody enjoyed it, and thank you very much. Looking forward to the next one.
Yes, thank you, Martha.
Vicky was asking about Ceres and Persephone. I think you're asking that because I mentioned that Ceres and Persephone are opposite in your chart. Email me and I will tell you, I will say more. Yes. Yes, super powerful in your chart. Any other questions? Comments? Anything?
Big thank you.
You're welcome. It was my total pleasure. I'm super excited to hear over this year how this feels for everybody. And yeah, I don't feel like I have the answers. So I would love, love, love to hear from anyone and everyone what comes alive for you.